original.
And welcome to Webcrawlers, the podcast where we do a deep dive into some of our favorite mysteries. Each week, we will introduce our topic, lay out our research and findings, reveal some conspiracy theories, and conclude with our own hypothesis. I'm Allie Siegel.
I'm Melissa Stetton. Oh, we got a new song.
Yes, I was about to say we have to play that. It's incredible.
David?
It sounds like Weezer.
Yes, the band is called Electro Dinosaur. Said they're on
so
YouTube.
Good.
Here we go.
Maria, we miss your demon voice. Such a great producer, we miss you so much. Are you working on a movie or filming drunk history? All I know is that we truly miss thee. Allie's super cool, yeah. Melissa's awesome too. But something is missing, and what's missing is you, Maria.
Incredible.
Damn, bro. We get so much joy out of your songs. We love to share them in our group text and talk about how talented you guys are. So please keep sending them. That's
really
truly amazing.
Crazy how talented some of our listeners are.
The three of us have no talents. And then you guys
play
are
basketball. Basketball's a talent.
That is true. Melissa and I had basketball practice this morning, and I made 5 swishes.
It was crazy. She couldn't miss.
It was impossible for me to miss, and I'm horrible at basketball. It was some sort of spirit entered me, the spirit of the holy basketball.
Yes.
So where's Maria? We'll continue to wonder until she comes back to us. Do we have any patrons for today?
Yes, we have Katie, James, and Jordan.
My middle name is Jordan. Welcome to the team, guys.
Wow.
I've put up 2 new episodes recently. One is on old experiments done on psychic children and ESP. And then I did another episode on witching for corpses. It's a technique that the FBI uses using dowsing rods or divining rods to help find dead bodies. Obviously, it's a pseudoscience, but they're starting to use it more and more, and it's actually accepted in court.
Yeah, there's this new article that came out recently that I read. It's pretty interesting.
It's crazy. So those are 2 new episodes that we have. More coming, more interviews, things like that. So welcome to the team, guys. You are now privy to that secret information. Well, today's going to be a doozy.
Today's episode?
Let me tell you, I'm definitely the wrong person to be covering this episode, and this is the wrong podcast to be listening to for it. But I think it's interesting as hell. I believe our friend, is it James from Vegas?
Yes.
Our new best friend? I think that he called in to tell us about it.
Yes.
And so I researched it a little bit and I want to do an episode on it. It's somewhat confusing, but multiverses, parallel universes, multiple realities, the Mandela effect.
Oh.
Are we immortal? Well, some Nobel Prize winning scientists say that we just might be due to quantum physics.
Oh boy.
What is quantum immortality or the quantum suicide theory? Well, let's get into it. I will say loose trigger warning for suicide, although we don't really talk about it. Suicide is more in the terms of multiple realities after we die. So I will say loose warning. So what is quantum immortality or the quantum suicide theory. Stop laughing. I am a quantum physicist and I'm going to explain this better. This is a TED Talk.
In my physics class in high school, I was like, I remember liking physics, but then I would skip school so much that we had the final exam and I saw it on the teacher's desk like the day before the exam. And
Melissa.
So I stole it and then I showed it to everyone. Everyone wrote down all the questions. So everyone got an A.
Melissa, are you serious? I
was a bad student, but I got good grades, but it's because I like cheated and like scammed my way into like stealing.
Scammers are smart. I always think when people, the whole time I was watching Ocean's 11 or whatever, Ocean's 10, 12, 13, I was like, if these people fueled their expertise at scamming into something else, we could
catch me if you can.
Hunger.
He ended up working for the FBI or whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Who knows what your future holds?
Knows?
Or there might be another alternate universe where you never missed a day of school.
Wow. That's impossible.
Let's get into it. That doesn't exist. So the idea of the multiverse, it was first it goes back actually to like medieval times, but Hugh Everett III, he said every event that could happen does happen in a literal sense, but we're only perceiving one at a time.
Right.
So basically this is going to be an idiot's guide to quantum physics.
This is perfect. I'm into this because I
had to explain it. I had to explain it to myself. Basically, think of life as your own choose your adventure novel. So each time we make a choice, no matter how little the choice, like what we have for breakfast, a new timeline is formed. And all these timelines exist at once. For example, there's one timeline where I had oatmeal for breakfast, and then there's another timeline where I had nothing for breakfast at all. And they keep branching out further and further and further. So I wake up in the morning. There's a timeline where I sleep for four more minutes. There's a timeline where I get straight up. And then in the 4-minute timeline, I choose either to have oatmeal for breakfast or not have breakfast. In the timeline where I get straight up, I maybe skip breakfast and go get a smoothie.
And then you order lunch.
There's infinity decisions for each decision I make, and they branch out into multiple universes that I'm living in all at the same time, according to this principle. Should I die in a certain one of these timelines, I just awaken and am still living in another timeline.
One.
Yes,
the one
another
where you
timeline
go get a
that I'm
smoothie.
Existing in. Exactly, another timeline I'm existing in. So that is the theory of the immortality.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. However, there's no actual quote unquote immortality because all the timelines will eventually end due to old age.
Okay, so you die in every timeline, just like you would
eventually.
Die in real life. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. So this was popularized more recently by Hans Moravec in 1987 and Bruno Marchal in 1988. And this is all based off the famous experiment Schrodinger's cat, which I'll get into. We all know Schrodinger's cat. Essentially, I should get into Schrodinger's cat first. Schrodinger's cat, what is it? In Dublin in 1952, a scientist named Erwin Schrödinger gave a lecture, and he said, guys, this is going to seem crazy. I'm going to seem like a lunatic, but there are multiple universes that happen simultaneously. They're not alternative universes. They're universes that are all happening at the same time. And they're based on science and equations that I've figured out. He called this superposition. And he won a Nobel Prize. So he's not just
really?
Yeah, he's not just some lunatic. In quantum mechanics, Schrodinger's cat, it's a thought experiment. So thought experiments are experiments that are never actually practiced. They're never actually done. They're theorized. That illustrates what's called a paradox of quantum superposition.
Great.
Yes. These are the layman's terms. I Googled what is Schrodinger's cat for dummies. And it
Schrodinger's
said,
cat for dummies.
this is what Google said literally. In simple terms, Schrodinger stated that if you place a cat and something that could kill the cat, for example, a radioactive atom, in a box and sealed it, you would not know if the cat was dead or alive until you opened the box. So that until the box was opened, the cat was, in a sense, both dead and alive.
Right. So you don't know what the outcome is until you look in the box and prove that the cat's either dead or alive.
So until then, it's essentially both.
Two different timelines.
Yes.
Cat's alive, cat's dead.
It's like, what's that saying? If a tree falls in the woods.
Right. Do you hear it?
Does anyone hear it? Or like, does it happen or something? It's like that. It's if it's not witnessed, does it occur?
I would say yes.
Interesting. I don't. After I've read all this, I'm unable to think anymore. So I don't. After I've written this episode, my brain actually melted, so I have no more opinions. So what this quantum suicide theory says that, similar to Schrodinger's cat, in our own lives, we are the observer as well as the test subject.
Oh,
so
we are the cat.
We are the cat,
because
and
we know
we're
what's
also the
happening.
scientist. Well,
wait. So I'm a cat
and a scientist. So here's good news: you're a cat and you're a scientist. So you are making decisions, but you're also waiting for things to happen to you.
Right. That makes sense.
Does it though?
It does.
So this all has to do with quantum mechanics. So as you sit awaiting possible death, your odds,
That's what I do all day. I'm just waiting to die.
As you sit awaiting your possible death, your odds of survival are 50%. Apparently, your odds of survival are 50% at all times.
Really?
So we must assume that at this point, we must have died. So we are living alive in an alternate universe where we have gotten the 50% chance of living.
Oh, that makes sense.
And this is called quantum necessity.
Oh.
So it's like Russian roulette.
Right. Because in an alternate universe, I drive home from basketball practice, I get into a car accident, and I die.
Right. Or you're playing basketball and like
the rim falls
on your head and
I die.
Bashes it in a severe accident. Yeah, I mean, it's so confusing that I feel like, this is why you have to get a PhD in it. I mean,
you got to go to school for 8 years to figure this out.
Yeah, I was reading Reddit and watching YouTube videos, and I learned
a lot from YouTube. I learned how to edit a podcast from YouTube. So
yeah, you also learned how to like change a car. It's
exactly.
crazy. Work with cars, but okay. So I looked at how stuff works, and
howstuffworks.com.
You know it. And this is how quantum suicide works. Warning. This podcast does not encourage testing out this hypothesis. We do not encourage suicide by any means or seeing if this theory is true from our lawyer. Okay, so how quantum suicide works. It says, a man sits down before a gun which is pointed at his head. This is no ordinary gun. It's rigged to a machine that measures the spin of a quantum particle. Each time the trigger is pulled, the spin of the quantum particle, or quark, I guess it's called, is measured. Depending on the measurement, the gun will either fire or it won't. If the quantum particle is measured as spinning in a clockwise motion, the gun will fire. If the cork is spinning counterclockwise, the gun won't go off. There'll only be a click. Nervously, the man takes a breath and pulls the trigger. The gun clicks. He pulls the trigger again, click, and again, click. The man will continue to pull the trigger again and again with the same result. The gun won't fire. Although it's functioning properly and loaded with bullets, no matter how many times he pulls the trigger, the gun will never fire. He'll continue this process for eternity, becoming immortal. Go back in time to the beginning of the experiment. The man pulls the trigger for the very first time, and the cork is now measured as spinning clockwise. The gun fires, the man is dead. But wait, the man already pulled the trigger the first time, and an infinite amount of times following that, and we already know the gun didn't fire. How can the man be dead? The man is unaware, but he's both alive and dead. Each time he pulls the trigger, the universe is split in two. It will continue. I know. It will continue to split again and again each time the trigger is pulled.
Oh.
And this was first posed by Princeton University theorist Max Tegmark in 1997, who now works at MIT.
Because every time he pulls the trigger, in one universe he dies. Because it's
Right, it's like a
50%
50-50.
chance.
Right.
The universe splits in two. Oh boy.
Yeah. So it's this multiverse theory.
Yeah.
Early recorded examples of the idea of infinite worlds exist as far as ancient Greece in this theory called atomism, which is proposed that infinite parallel worlds arose from the collision of atoms. In 3rd century BCE, the philosopher Chrysippus suggested that the world eternally expired and regenerated, creating multiple universes across time. So essentially, this idea all comes down to atoms and science, which is, of course, for me, very confusing. It's all about atoms and the way that they spin or something like that.
Okay.
So atoms either spin like clockwise or counterclockwise, but don't do so until they're observed. So essentially, atoms exist in both realities until they're observed. So all decisions exist until a choice is made.
Right. Like the cat is still alive until you look in the box.
Yes, exactly.
There's infinite possibilities.
Yes. And to that effect, electrons and atoms jump randomly from one orbit to another.
Oh.
Which goes into something called quantum jumping.
Oh, what?
Which is
Quantum leap?
Yes. Isn't Martin redoing that?
Yes, he's well, I don't know if I should. He's in the process of rebooting Quantum Leap.
Apparently, this is a TikTok trend now.
What?
Which I was very surprised to
I'm
find
interested. TikTok, what?
But what? Did you say TikTok?
I can understand TikTok.
Yeah. Well, I know. Thank God this is the one part that I understood. Quantum jumping is when people believe they can deliberately jump from one of their timelines to another, or you can deliberately create your own timeline. So
you have two different breakfasts. You have cereal or you have granola.
yes. So
That's my
I'll explain.
example.
So this
It's
is
just eating.
we only talk about breakfast. All of our quantum physics
So
things
I
are
have
food
lunch,
related.
2 lunches.
Yeah. Okay, so you're either at McDonald's or Del Taco. So Sexy Snack on Reddit says it's called quantum jumping. It's more or less using the law of attraction to put yourself into another reality where things are different. Usually things aren't outwardly different, and sometimes small things will change. You can jump into a reality that has a different desired outcome, or perhaps a life where a mistake you made is erased.
Oh.
We do it all the time, and it's why stuff like the Mandela effect exists.
Right.
We change our reality all the time, and those things we swore existed no longer exist, or they do, it's just they aren't exactly the same.
Okay.
Then Bedazzled Brain, which is how my brain felt after reading all this, says Mandela effect is caused by quantum jumping, either by accident or on purpose. I've recently been experimenting with quantum jumping, fun activity, and believe I recently came to this timeline in which Fruit of the Loom has no cornucopia.
What?
Yeah, doesn't it have a cornucopia?
Wait a minute. Fruit of the Loom. Okay.
I always remember there being a cornucopia, not just the fruit.
There's two different. Wait. There's no. There's no.
I think
cornucopia.
This is a Mandela effect thing.
Oh my God.
This is the one thing that explained the Mandela effect a little bit for me. Or I was like, okay, that makes sense. If we're like shifting timelines, that is the one thing that could explain it.
Oh, weird.
Exactly. So he or she continues. Tonight I came across this for the first time, despite being, what? Okay. Furthermore, I wonder if psychedelics can cause accidental quantum jumping.
Oh.
But can be done on purpose with intention. I've been regularly practicing transcendental meditation for the past year, which I've done also. David Lynch has a transcendental meditation organization, which was studied by the CIA in Project Gateway to try to escape the confines of space and time.
Yeah, I feel like taking shrooms, which I've done.
Yeah, of course.
Feels like you're in a different universe for sure, because everything is so different and looks different.
Yeah. We'll get into Project Gateway in a second, but Melissa, will you click that link I put in, the Your Tango link? And then there's a TikTok of someone explaining.
Oh boy.
There's a really important TikTok about explaining how you can deliberately, if you want to, quantum leap.
Okay, but do you guys know how to change timelines on purpose? I don't know why this video is going viral again, but this is a good opportunity to talk about intentional timeline skipping. The original video was about accidentally changing timelines, so go check that out if you haven't seen it. But I've been doing really intentional portal work because things kind of suck right now. I know I'm not supposed to say that because everything in a season and a reason, but I could be happier. So things like water work as like natural portals, doorways as well. And the easiest way to skip timelines is to use a portal. I like using water, so I do it in the shower. So sometimes I'll like script or I'll just like envision in my mind the timeline that I know I deserve to be in. And as I'm in the water, I'm shedding the old timeline. And when the water stops, I envision myself stepping out into the timeline I belong into. Straightforward, but if you want more detail, like and comment below and let me know.
So she's visualizing herself going into these different
timelines.
I
tried to do it after I saw that video. I was like, I walk through a door in my house and I was like, I'm going to walk into a timeline where I'm never tired. And let me tell you, I'm still exhausted as fuck. So maybe every version of myself is just tired. But
that's like when you wake up in the morning and you have to be somewhere and you see yourself like getting out of bed, going to the bathroom, taking a shower, but then you wake up and you realize it's all in your mind.
Yeah. And I think it's like visualization and like actualization.
Yeah,
I think
that's weird.
I think they're saying if you visualize it, that's an actual other timeline that you can physically step into. Let's take a quick break for announcements. Webcrawlers has a Patreon to get access to bonus episodes, shout outs, discounts, and more. Please go to patreon.com/webcrawlers. You can donate as little as $2 a month to become a patron. Also, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. If you give us a 5-star review, we will shout you out and read it. Also, we've got a hotline. Insert jingle here. 626-604-6262. Please continue to call us, and we will continue to play your voicemails. And we are loving all of our first-time callers. Thank you so much for overcoming your fear to call us. We love it. Now, back to our program. So there's a Vice article on Project Gateway. Apparently, that's also blowing up on TikTok. Who knew? In 1983, a classified CIA report talked about the Gateway experience, which is a training system designed to focus brainwave output to alter consciousness and ultimately escape the restrictions of time and space. The CIA, why not? The CIA was interested in all sorts of psychic research at the time that we know, including the theory of applications of remote viewing, like the men who stare at goats, which is when someone views real events with the power of their mind. The documents have since been declassified, so we'll put those documents on our Patreon. That apparently is also about multiple timelines and meditation and out-of-body experiences. The leading writer on this is a man named Robert Monroe. If you go on YouTube, you can actually find a lot of quantum jumping, quote-unquote, meditations that
so it's
help you
just
facilitate
visualizing yourself in a different timeline. That's kind of what quantum jumping is.
It seems like that's what it is. I didn't give it a try because I'm a little weirded out by it, but it seems
you don't want to
like
get stuck in
I don't want to get stuck in another timeline. So apparently that's what it is. And to that effect, the one way it did make sense to me is the Mandela effect tied to quantum immortality and quantum jumping. So do we remember things slightly different because we have been awakened into a different timeline where things are slightly different, where different decisions have been made? And there's a Reddit thread on this.
That would be interesting because there's so many people who have the same Mandela effect thing with like Berenstain Bears or like
exactly
Jif having 2 Fs.
That's one way of kind of justifying the Mandela
Did you ever watch
effect.
that show How To with John Wilson on HBO?
Yeah. Oh my God.
He did a Mandela. There was a Mandela effect conference.
Yes. And he comes to the conclusion that these people probably just have a really bad memory. It's really so funny. Like, that's a great show. Yeah, I mean, same. Also, for me, I felt like this kind of tied into the butterfly effect. So nearly 45 years ago, during the 139th meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, something that Melissa and I still haven't been invited to for some reason, Edward Lorenz posed the question, does the flap of a butterfly's wings in Brazil set off a tornado in Texas? So kind of posing the question of, do our smallest decisions have grand effects?
Is that what the butterfly effect definition is?
Oh, yeah. It's that small scale
things.
Decisions have large scale consequences or effects. A scientist or something is going to call in and leave a voicemail being like, your whole episode was wrong and nothing made sense.
You guys are idiots.
Yeah, everything you said was incorrect. And we're just going to be like, the disclaimer was not to listen to this episode. Then there's one last thing that I wanted to talk about called the timeline convergence of 2012.
What?
Which I hadn't heard of before. Which I hadn't heard of before. The theory suggests that in 2012, Earth's timelines converged to only 2 timelines.
Is that like the end of the Mayan calendar thing?
Yeah. And when I was Googling it, I literally couldn't find anything on it except for this one page. So I don't know who's trying to hide this timeline convergence of 2012.
Biden.
But apparently, yeah, I know, right? But it was 2 timelines where one, we're entering a golden age and everything is great. And the other one is everything shit and we're controlled by the New World Order.
I mean, I feel like we're in that one.
We're definitely in the shitty one. There's a bunch of TV shows that also talk about this. There's 1,000 movies right now, too, about Spider-Man and the multiverses, Doctor Strange multiverse shit. if you've watched Black Mirror Bandersnatch, which is the one where you get to make your own decisions on Netflix, that's a great depiction of quantum immortality and quantum suicide.
Yeah, because that one's
that's
like
what it's about.
Very simple choices. Like you pick what he eats for breakfast.
Yeah, that's where I got the breakfast idea from, because I was watching it last night and I was letting it play through, so I wasn't making any of the choices. I was just letting Netflix make all the choices for me. So I was watching it for like 5 hours, and it's crazy how many incarnations there are for each
really good.
decision you make. I mean, the sentence you say, how you sit. I mean, it's scary to think about how many
I know, it's
there can
scary. What am I doing
like
wrong? Everything I'm doing is wrong.
I know, I'm not doing well in this timeline.
I'm sitting wrong.
Yeah, I'm breathing wrong clothes. And then Russian doll, another thing about quantum suicide, quantum immortality. She just keeps waking up again and again in the same timeline. Listen, I don't know. I put out a call to arms to try to get a scientist or a physicist or something on, but apparently no physicists follow me on Twitter, which is really surprising. Yeah, I don't.
Someone replied to somewhere and was like, have you guys seen the show The OA? And that kind of deals with quantum multiverses. I think I watched it. And I don't know if I really understood what it was about, but I was like, oh yeah, that's a weird show. It was good.
I just remember people being really upset when they like canceled it, I think.
Yeah, people were bummed. And they had like that weird dance routine thing where they did the things with their hands that everyone was like,
I never watched it, but I'll take your word for it. If you look on Reddit, there's all sorts of weird threads about people who believe they've woken up in alternate timelines and being like, my dad is my dad, but he's a little different.
No.
Or like I'm like, my school is the same, but like things are in different locations now. Or like just little things where you're like, do you have a bad memory? Or it will be like, remember when Craig one time in a mini episode said that he saw a house and then like the house wasn't there the next time? A lot of people saying things like that. Or, you know, I noticed this for the first time. It had never been there before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just little minute details like that where small things either are changed or pop up that weren't there before, where you're like, what's the causality of that? Anyway, what is that all about? Listen, I tried my best describing quantum physics.
It's complicated, but
we tried. Yeah. We talked about cats. We talked about breakfast. So hopefully we did it justice. If you know anything about quantum physics, the Mandela effect, Project Gateway.
Do you have a Nobel Prize?
Especially if you have a Nobel Prize, please call in. If you feel like you've timeline jumped or know how to, Melissa, where can people reach us?
You can email us at webcrawlerspod@gmail.com.
All right. Well, I'm Allie, Schrodinger's dog, Siegel.
I'm Melissa, Quantum Leap in Stetton.
Sure are. All right. Bye, everybody. Good luck out there.
An Erios original.
Powered by Acast.